Just a few moments past our 4 o'clock, so let's go ahead and call to order the Historic Board of the City of Palatka meeting, October 5th, 2023. Is Chaplain Mulberry with us today? Would he like to get us started with our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our alternate yet incredibly important member, Mary Jane Rosa?
All righty. Father, again, we thank you for another day's journey. Lord, we thank you because you blessed us to come together again. We give you praise, we give you glory, and we give you honor for the great things that you're doing in this city of Palatka. We pray, God, that you will continue to guide us, give directions, give instructions, give us what to do and how to do what, God. As we look to you and trust your word, as we trust your name, and as we trust your will, we thank you for what you're doing even now. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Madam City Clerk, if we could have the roll call, please.
Vice Chair Alan Sheffield.
Present.
Mr. Larry Beaton.
Present.
Mr. Chris Hollister.
Present.
Mr. Timothy Jefferson is not present for the record. In his place, we have alternate board member Mary Jane Rosa. Present. Brianna Pierce. Present. Miss Patty Boat.
Present.
We do have a quorum in the chambers, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Let us read the appeal procedures. Subject is appeal procedures and ex parte communication. Notice any person wishing to appeal any decision made by the Historic Preservation Board with respect to any matter considered at such meeting will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal to be based. Florida Statute 286.0105. Ladies and gentlemen, ex parte communications or things that you feel that you need to share with us regarding today's agenda. Mr. Beaton.
I received a telephone call from Pam Garris requesting pictures and a little historic data on the Campbell building. And during the conversation, she wanted to bring up the issue, and I explained to her that I could not discuss that with her.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaton. Ms. Rosa?
Yes, for the record, I would like for it to be known that I am a parishioner of St. Mark's Parish here in Palatka, but I have no knowledge of their internal politics and particularly no knowledge of their financial situation.
Thank you, Ms. Rosa. Anyone else? For the record, I would like to say that I, like potentially most of my neighbors, received envelopes on my front doorstep, a personal message from St. Mark's Church, which is copied in the extensive paperwork that we have just received, and I'll get to that in a moment. All right, let's move on to our agenda item number 2, the approval of minutes for the September 7th, 2023 meeting. I trust you have all poured over them. Do you have any corrections, additions, anything of that nature? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll approve.
And a second? Thank you. Minutes will be filed for posterity. Let's move on to public comments. Pardon me. I see some comments in front of me, but they are specifically to regular business items. But let's go ahead and open public comments to things that are not related to regular business items. As we know, the speakers are limited to 3 minutes and no action is taken on items. Right, seeing no public comments not related to regular business, let's go ahead and close the public comment section of our meeting. Moving on to regular business, I see we have a full house. Welcome, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Would anyone take exception, and I'm going to begin by asking our city attorney, Ms. Jane West, if we take item C on the regular business agenda and bring it to the top of our agenda.
Someone just needs to make a motion to modify the agenda.
Ladies, gentlemen, if we agree,
I make a motion to modify the agenda, move C.
okay, we have a motion to move regular business item C to the top of the agenda, made by Ms. Pierce, seconded by Ms. Vogt. Discussion, ladies, gentlemen? No, if not, let's go ahead and call the roll if we could. Madam City Clerk?
Certainly. Vice Chair Sheffield,
Present.
is that a yay or nay?
I'm sorry, you said roll and I
You are indeed present, yes,
agree.
twice.
Yeah.
Mr. Beaton,
Yay.
Mr. Hollister.
Yeah.
Ms. Rosa,
Yay.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Vogt.
Yay.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Ladies, gentlemen of our historical board, we have just been literally handed this moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different packages that are to be, I understand, or I assume, taken into consideration along with this application. There is no way that we can process, in my belief, 34 plus pages of paperwork in the next few minutes. Also, another reason that I asked this to be moved up to the head of the agenda is obviously we have a lot of people who are here today who want to talk about this, and I don't want to keep you all waiting until the end of the agenda. I just think that would be kind of cruel and unusual. So I'm asking my board, ladies, gentlemen, do we feel like we can process this amount of information in the next 30 minutes, or do we need to, in fact, table this application until the next board meeting?
As your legal counsel, I would strongly recommend postponing so everyone has an opportunity to review the information.
Thank you very much, Ms. West. I'm sorry, we interrupted you, Ms. Vogt. Would you care to table specifically to our next meeting?
Next meeting would be fine.
And I'll second that.
Question.
Madam Chair,
Ma-
Ms. West?
I was unable to hear the speaker.
You're not microphoned, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, do we?
Ms. West, there is a gentleman in the audience who has asked if he could speak briefly to the issue. I would like your counsel on that. I feel as though if we are indeed tabling, we are indeed tabling.
Yeah, if you have a motion and a second, you can discuss, no public comment at that point. You can have public comment before that agenda item or after, but not at this point. So if you have a motion to table, and you're going to go ahead and proceed with that, the appropriate time for the member of the public to speak on it is when it is actually rescheduled.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Ms. West. Mr.
I did have
Sheffield?
A question before we vote on the tabling. Did we want to consider whether the applicant thought it was necessary or required to consider this additional information, or do they believe what the information that was turned in with the application is sufficient, but would be willing to live with our conclusion based on the information we were able to receive on time?
I believe I would actually speak to that. And I would say that the amount of information that came to us in our packet was tiny. Looks to me like pages 31 with some photos through to the end of the agenda. What we have just been given is 5 separate packages of information, which, like I said, I just don't see how we can possibly absorb this information in the course of a public meeting when the majority of this is new to us.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Beaton.
I have a question, a procedural question, and we probably have to defer to the attorney about this. The question that I have is any of the material that is in our packet in conflict with or needs to be deleted as a process of us reviewing this new material that we haven't had an opportunity to see?
Mr. Beaton, we simply don't know. And also, city staff has no way of knowing because I don't believe they've seen any of the information that was just presented to us. So how on earth would we move forward in a controlled manner without knowing what's here?
I guess what I'm asking is, does the applicant want us to delete anything that's in the original submission and not consider it versus the new information we've received?
Once again, how
Well,
would
the
we?
applicant would certainly know that since they're presenting the new information.
I'm I am so sorry, but once again, I must defer to our city attorney. Ms.
Procedurally,
West?
where do we stand? Do we have a motion to table on the floor? Did I hear a second?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're now in discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
So we need a vote on the motion to table the agenda item. What is the specific question to me?
I believe you might have answered it previously. If we are in a position to vote yes or no on tabling something to our next meeting, is it appropriate to have comments from the public at this point? I believe you said no.
No, that's correct. You have a motion on the floor. You need to vote on it. There's a lot that can be done between now and the next meeting in terms of what the applicant chooses to include as part of the packet. Obviously, it's prudent to get this material ahead of time over to city staff. I have not seen any of the documents that all of you are referring to, did not know that that even came through. So right now you've got a motion on the table. You need to vote on it on whether or not you're going to table this agenda item based on the additional information provided by the applicant.
Thank you, Ms. West. Madam City Clerk, could we have a reading of the motion just for clarification purposes?
I have a motion to table until the next meeting by Ms. Vogt.
Thank you. Board members, any other discussion on the motion and the subsequent second? If not, can we please do a not roll call? Can we please go ahead and cast the vote?
Oh, you want me to do a roll? Okay.
If you would, sorry.
We get rolls today, apparently. Okay. Vice Chair Sheffield,
Yeah.
Mr. Beaton,
Aye.
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Ms. Rosa.
No.
Ms. Rosa is a no. Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Chair Van Rensburg.
Yes,
The motion passed with Ms. Rosa dissenting.
thank you. So we will see you back at our next meeting, hopefully, and we will have time to digest this information. We promise you. And also city staff will be in a position to know what we're all doing, and we'll all be on the same page. Thank you very much for your understanding. And Ms. West, thank you very much for your guidance. That would be next month, sir, on the 1st. Absolutely.
The date, Madam Chair, would be the 2nd of November
November 2nd,
at
sir.
4:00.
4:00, sir.
Typically, the Historic Preservation Board meetings are the first Thursday in the month at 4:00.
Wow, I feel like a jerk and I'm so sorry. But I just really feel like we need to understand everything. And I hope that you'll understand that that vote was nearly unanimous because we want to do the right thing. We truly, truly do as a historical board. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning of our agenda. Item A, under regular business, this is an HPB case 2318, request for a perimeter fence. The owner is TP Schoolhouse LLC. The address is 200 South 7th Street, Palatka, Florida. 32177, and the parcel number, which I'm going to go ahead and read because I need a moment here, 42-10-27-6850-530-0010. Ms. Walsh, if you could get us started, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you've noticed, this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness at the Campbell Building at 200 South 7th Street to install a black vinyl coated chain link fence around the perimeter of the property. This is in order to comply with certain state of Florida child care safety standards and provide increased property security. A little bit of background, the structure was constructed in 1926 and is an example of Mediterranean revival architecture. Originally, it was the Palatka Elementary School. It was renamed for the president of the Florida Drainage and Construction Company in 1955. The school board sold the property, it's functioned as an administrative headquarters for the Putnam County School System in 1978. It began in 1978. The school board sold the property in 2018 to a private party that operated a charter school until it closed in 2021. The building sold again, and it now houses a childcare and primary school business. The structure contributes to a well-defined historic district. In your packet, you'll see a copy of the parcel shape and then also a photograph from 2009 with a proposed fencing example on page 5 of the report, of the staff report. That's an example of where, a diagram of where they'd like to place the fencing, and that is around the perimeter of the property, with the exception of that little pie-shaped arced piece of property there, because I don't think that belongs to them any longer. The purpose of this in protecting the children is that it's to keep them off the street, and they're also required to not have any access to a right-of-way in order to access their playground area, which they're proposing to put into that piece of property that extends down to that arced piece of property. Does that make any sense? I really wish we had a pointer. I can't even reach up there to point. So thank you. Staff finds that the proposed changes will not materially impact the architectural or historic value of the property, of the structure in particular, nor detract from the character of the district. And while proposed changes may appear to not be exactly consistent with the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for historic preservation, renovation, and rehabilitation, modern child care facility requirements require such an accommodation for the children. Okay, and that's my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Ladies, gentlemen, do we have questions of Ms. Walsh at this time? 1 second. Yep. My only question personally, actually 2 questions, was number 1, you mentioned in your report that modern childcare facilities, the requirements demand a fence material that would not permit. I was just wondering where you found that information.
The applicant provided some of it, and also that was their justification for asking for the fencing.
Okay. And then I actually don't believe, although it might be a question for you, with regard to the fence height, the applicant referenced the front entrance of the building having a 4-foot fence, and then the side not being a front entrance having a 6-foot fence. But correct me if I'm wrong, please. If it indeed comes up to a road, is there really a distinguishment between front and side?
Our code doesn't really do that very well. Or in fact, other than fence height, we don't regulate fences unless they're in a historic district, in which case they come before you. So what our code does say is that in the front of the building, the fence can be no higher than 4 feet, but on the sides and the rear of the building, it can be 6 feet.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification. Do we have someone here to Yes, ma'am.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. One other thing about that is that if you are installing a fence, you also have to be aware, at a corner property, you also have to be aware of site triangles, so you can't block the view of drivers and pedestrians.
Is that reflected? Oh, okay. I can see it is reflected on Krill Avenue, but possibly not on the corner of 7th and Oak.
We can revise the staff report and the certificate of appropriateness to reflect that if you wish.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a valid point as we move forward. Okay, is the applicant here to address us? Up to you. Love to hear from you. Come on up, give us your name and address for the record if you would.
Hi, my name is Risa Bird. My address is 7949 Washington Avenue in Hastings, and I do own the preschool that resides in the Campbell Building. BYRD. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this is the building owner that just walked in.
Hi, Jan, if you would, or John, if you would like to address us, if you wouldn't mind, step up to the microphone and just let us know who you are again and give us your address, please.
My name is John Vanderwerf, and my wife and I own the Campbell Building, or if it's still called the Campbell Building, call it TP Schoolhouse, and we purchased it about 1.5 years ago, along with some other buildings in Palatka, and we're trying to make things better.
Fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to share with us about the application, things that you need us to know?
Well, I think Risa has most of the information, so I won't make it be redundant. But we're really proud of the work that's been done there. We've spent a lot of money on the inside, new lighting, new paint, new flooring, new AC units, new drains, plumbing, and that's the lower section. And we're expanding, which is what Risa is going to talk about, to do the same thing on the upper floors. So anyway, it's a great building.
Thank you.
And I'll just follow up with that. On the bottom floor, we have right now 101 students enrolled in our school, and that provides care for infants through, we also have kindergarten and first grade. We have a class downstairs of that. We are desperate for a fence around that facility in today's world right now. You know that it's not safe to have kids out and about if they're not fenced in. We have to conduct a monthly fire drill that we're required by DCF to do once a month. And it terrifies me every time we have to open those doors and bring those kids outside of that building because there's no way to contain them. We have, unfortunately, cars that come between Laurel and Oak that think that's a drag strip, and they still come through our parking lot like it's a raceway. People that don't belong there, we need a way to curb that through traffic, because I'm really scared one of our kids is going to get hurt one day because cars will flip off of Laurel Street. We've got it marked wrong way traffic coming off of Oak Street, and they still fly off of there, as I've got parents with little tiny toddlers walking across the parking lot. So it's a necessity of childcare. We cannot have kids outside playing with without a fence, because we know kids wander. And unfortunately, we live in a world where people don't always have the best intentions with our children. So it behooves us to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our babies and young children safe. So
Thank you. Ladies, gentlemen, questions? Mr. Beaton?
Thank you. So I have a few basic questions for you. What do you consider the front of the building?
it's my understanding that because of the address, it's 200 South 7th, that the front along 7th Street is the front. And that's where we were told it would have to be the 4-foot fence.
Is your actual entrance on the west side of the building?
Yes, sir. There's 4 entrances on that building. The child care facility uses the back entrance in the parking lot.
Okay, so, but you consider the west side of the building the primary entrance to the building right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There's an existing, I believe, I have to check with the city to ask this. There's an existing non-conforming chain link aluminum fence inside the perimeter. What you're wanting to do, is that going to be removed?
That's not our fence. No, sir. The only fence that's on that property belongs to Rotary Park.
There is a chain link fence. There is a chain link fence opposite the Coca-Cola building on the north side of the
So there
building?
was a temporary fence that we used this summer. We had summer camp for our elementary school students. It's been taken down. There's no fencing on the Campbell
that-
building property.
That fence has been removed.
Yes, sir.
The one
It's-
that's,
It was a temporary, it was just a temporary fence. It was held
Okay.
down with sandbags. It was not installed.
okay. On the Laurel Street, which I'm assuming would be the south side, I
Yes,
would
sir.
consider the south side of the building. Would you possibly consider a couple of end cuts to the fence that you're proposing to allow some plantings outside the fence to make that area look a little non-industrial?
I would be 100% in support of that. My plan is to have our students plant some box gardens and do some things within our perimeter to make it look
Okay.
more child-friendly, family-friendly, just, yes.
I don't want to eat up much of your property to do that, but I just think aesthetically it would look a little better, especially on that side because of the traffic on
Right.
Laurel Street.
It's busy.
You don't have that kind of traffic on Oak Street. You do somewhat on 7th Street, but I think that's the busy side of the property. Is that?
I also wanted to mention, if it hasn't come up already, we decided that the black fence looks better than the silver fence. It's about $12,000 more expensive, but we'd like to do that. That's similar to the fence that's over by Island Doctors, and they look pretty nice and they're more invisible. So anyway, that's all I want to add.
I totally agree with what you just said, by the way. And then the last question I have probably is going to have to be asked by with the city. And I can't really tell from this drawing, but does this fenced in area include the closed portion of 8th Street between Laurel and Oak? That's actually a right of way. And I don't know if the city officially has ever closed that street.
Larry, are you talking about what used to be 8th Street?
Yes.
Okay, I think I'm certain that was, I don't know how it was done, but that was closed a long time ago. It's been used as a right of way, but I don't believe it exists. I've never seen it on any surveys. And actually, we just resolved a lot line issue with the county in that when the surveys, whenever that road was decommissioned, that entire section, when the county split it, was deeded over to the schoolhouse side. And that's why the property looks a little unusual shaped in that we went to the county and said, let's not try to move the ball fields or have that expense. So why don't you guys keep this strip and then trade us for some playground area over here, which is outside of the ball field fences. So
Gotcha.
I've never seen anything that said that wasn't decommissioned at some point.
What that was originally was where the school buses loaded and unloaded, and it still was a brick street through there. And then they had school crossing guards that had barricades at each end that regulated that. But that's what it was originally. So it hasn't been used as an open street in quite some time. Oh, on part of that property? Okay. So does this line that's that's where the little cutout thing at the bottom there, does it include part of what used to be that street?
No, sir, that's around, that curved line is around the backside of the baseball field that's there.
Okay, so, but part of this area that's the part that's down is through that where the street used to be?
That 25-foot line that's upside down, the 25 that's upside down is just to the ends, that I think it's to the inside of where that street used to be.
It's,
Because the county kept the dugout, which is on the outside of that.
okay. And the area that I was talking about the possibility of maybe 2 plantings, just to break it up a little bit, would not be the area that I guess you would consider part of Krill Avenue. It would just be that part of Laurel Street.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
It's just a request.
We want to be good neighbors and we want our school to be welcoming and look nice, we want it to be appealing to the neighborhood and to our families there.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Beaton. Do we have other questions? Ms. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question. I'm sure there's going to be gates put
Yes,
up.
ma'am.
I didn't see anywhere in here that gates were included. Just fencing.
The gates will be off of Laurel and, if I can, this, I believe is where the gates will be. There's one there, and where that little bit of a line is inset, that's the gate.
Okay, and those will
There'll
be
drive-through gates.
the same material, the
Yes.
chain link fence?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess that chain link fence doesn't go all the way to the next road. It kind of stops where the baseball field kind of
Right,
stops
because
and then
that's the
curves
end
back
of our
around.
property.
Okay.
It would follow the new property line after the property swap with the county, with the baseball field, to resolve that property line issue that we had.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and open up to public comment.
Thank you.
Come on up, and if you would, your name and address for the record.
Hello, Rebecca Bigenwald, 211 South 7th Street. My question is on that fence, is it the whole building itself?
Madam Chair, if I may, I would defer to Ms. West if people speak from the audience.
And the reason, and you're absolutely correct, Madam City Clerk, is that we can't hear you. Ms. Rebecca, did you have more than one question? Or was that the main one? Because if that was the main one, I'm going to say, let's share the microphone.
Well, you said so gates, no. When I open my door, I don't want to see something that's going to look like, you know, an old hospital. You know,
Well,
I've seen that
I was going to
building
say,
be a
please,
lot
if you don't
of
mind.
no, I totally understand. We don't want this, it's a school. We don't want it to look like a prison. We want it to look nice. We have some regulations that say that we have to have a perimeter fenced property in schools because of children. So the front, as much as we can make it look good, we will, hence the black fence, which is easier to look at. It's not as visible as a silver chain link fence. In the very front of the building, there will probably be, I'll defer to Risa, probably some sort of a gate where you open it so people could come in the entrance kind of thing.
Right, because you got those two walkways right there.
Right, exactly. So we would want to still have that be accessible. The rest would be a 4-foot fence, which is fairly short. And that won't even be the playground area, to my understanding. The playground area will be out back. Yes. Mhm. And the, I don't know if Risa mentioned it already, but if everybody can hear me, okay. But most of the playground area will be at the lower left section of this drawing, outside of where the ball fields are. The large square section behind the building is mostly what's paved now. So we will have gates on both ends there. And the idea for children to be dropped off is that we will come in off of Laurel, cars will make a circle, then go back out. So they're not coming through generally. We'll have a gate there just because it's usable, but we'll mostly have our traffic pattern come in and go out off of Laurel. And then the whole rest of the perimeter would be where the 6-foot fence would be. And like I say, anything we can do for landscaping, anything that doesn't hinder visibility of the children. That's why we've got that in the left lower section, kind of, it looks like there's two fences. And in fact, there is, because you're seeing the ball field fence. But it would see that little corner that was there because the county didn't want it. We didn't want it. Nobody wanted it because for us, it didn't work because you couldn't see kids around a corner. You have to have a line of sight. So it'll be something that's kind of you could have store playground or equipment or something, but that'll be a non-usable spot probably for as far as functional for us. So it'll just be mostly perimeter fence around the back, and the playground areas will be in the, toward the Krill side. So we'll definitely want to do everything to make it look nice. We want the whole building to look nice.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rebecca, did that answer your question? Thank you very much. Okay, other public comments? Ms. Kitchens?
Allegra, is this on? Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. Since I was going to speak on the other item, you can just change the number to this item. I just want to give you a little bit of brief personal history. I started that school in 1953, and I stayed in it through 5th grade, and I got out in 1958. It was called Campbell School. I don't know when the name officially changed. It might have been 55, like the city said. But in 1953, it was still called John Campbell Elementary School. My late cousin Con Marvin started there when about the time the building was built, and it was called the Palatka Elementary School at that time. John W. Campbell was actually a mayor or a former mayor of Palatka. The school was named after him because he was the mayor and he's the one that instigated it. So I just wanted to point that out. And the front of the building, as Mr. Vanderwerf said, is on 7th Street, which is the east side of the building. The back side where they're talking about where they're going to have the kindergarten coming and going is actually the back side, and that's the west side. And the 8th Street, the street, we played on that. It was blocked off with sawhorses, and that was where we played dodgeball. I remember because I fell and I cut my leg, and Mary Calhoun was a school nurse, and anyway, had to have stitches. But we played dodgeball on that street. And it was very slick, when it rained. But it was a brick street, and it was open, and it was 8th Street, and the Davis Tank Factory was where Rotary Field is now. But I'm not sure exactly when it was officially closed, but I'm real sure it was because I worked in the property appraiser's office. I worked the deeds for the Palatka area, and I'm 99.9% sure that if you look at the map of that section, you'll see the ordinance where the city closed it. And I think it was sometime after 1969 when I went to work for the property appraiser's office. I think I might have worked the ordinance, but I'm not real sure now. It's been a while, but I just wanted to give you some history on that and some backup. And all my first cousins went there, and they were born 1919, 1920, 1926, and 1930. Thank you.
Ms. Kitchens, two things. You are used to timing yourself for public comment, aren't you?
Yes.
I've never heard anyone speak so quickly in my life.
For the record. For the record, Sonny and I had a contest after a city commission meeting reading an ordinance. It took me 19 minutes to read it, but she read, 19. It took me 19 seconds to read an ordinance, the title. It took her 17 seconds and she won.
And she got a crunch bar.
I want a rematch, but I need to, read it a couple of times before I go to. But yeah, I was timing myself for the 3 minutes. I'm working on getting the whole U.S. Constitution down to 3 minutes.
Ms. Kitchens, thank you. And Mr. Beaton, we're so sorry that Ms. Kitchens just stole your historical thunder. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Anyone else for the public comment section of this particular application? If not, we'll close public comment. Ms. Walsh, anything else to add? Okay. Ladies, gentlemen, what are our feelings? Mr. Beaton.
A one-word question. Are the posts going to be black also? Okay, thank you.
I know it is a chain link fence is something that we would not normally look favorably upon in a historic district, but it seems that, and I believe staff has backed us up saying, this is a special scenario. We need to keep our kids safe. So if there is no discussion, ladies, gentlemen, where would we like to go?
Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Rosa?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, about your question about the size and the opening in the fence. That's a standard architectural requirement for all public buildings because of children. It has to do with the size of their heads and the size of their hands and their bodies. So it's not just for fences, but it's for anything that's on a property where children are present. And that's where it comes from.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Beaton?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board accept staff's recommendation for approval of the certificate of appropriateness for HPB 23-18, 200 South 7th Street for their proposed fencing improvement for the property.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Beaton. We have a motion and a second by Mr. Sheffield. If we could,
You want the roll call?
please.
Okay. Mr. Sheffield,
Yes.
Mr. Beaton,
Yes.
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Ms. Rosa,
Yes.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Chair Van Rensburg.
Yes,
Motion passed unanimously.
thank you. Moving on to agenda item B, HPB case 23-25, request to add a new deck at the rear of a residence. The owners are Mr. and Mrs. Adams. The address is 600 North 3rd Street, Palatka, Florida. The parcel number is 42-10-27-6850-0400-0030. Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request is to add a new deck at the rear of the structure on the northwest corner of the building. Sunny, if you could scroll down a little bit, and I don't know, I thought there was a diagram that showed the northwest corner. There you go. That's the one. Thank you. The deck is proposed to be approximately 8 by 15 feet with 4-foot wide stairs. The proposed material is wood with flat sawn baluster railings. According to the state of Florida master site files, the structure was built in 1896 and is an example of Victorian Gothic architecture. The home currently appears to have a standing seam sheet metal roof. Walter and John Robbins purchased the home in 1896, and foreclosure on the mortgage occurred in 1901 and eventually was owned by Eli Yao in 1905. Reginald Cooper, employed by GM Davis and Son Cypress Tank Manufacturers, isn't that what Miss Kitchens just alluded to? Cypress Tank Manufacturers purchased the home in 1910. He and his wife Helen occupied the home until their deaths in 1936. Co-owner and secretary treasurer of the Beasley Tractor Company, Mr. Wendell Beasley, purchased it from the Cooper estate. He and his wife lived there until the mid-70s. The structure contributes to a well-defined residential district. And on page 2, there are some older pictures of the structure. You'd have to scroll up a little bit, please, Sunny. Other way. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Those pictures, right? So that's what it looked like in 1981. And then on the next page, there's a more recent picture from 2009. And then you saw the diagram already on the next page. So on the following page, page 5 of the report, is the proposed location and dimensions of the deck. This is again at the northwest rear corner of the house. On the following page is an example of what the deck would look like as far as the size and mass of it. And then on the next page, on page 7, is an example of the proposed railings and balusters. Balustrade, sorry, not balusters. And on the last page is an example of the Gothic home. And I put that in there to show you that those older homes did indeed use those flat sawn balustrades. Okay, so staff is recommending approval, and it does not, materially impair the architectural character of the district or the structure.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Do we have questions of Ms. Walsh? If not, I believe that at least half the applicants are in the building. Would you like to come on up and tell us about your project? And if you could name an address for the record.
Alice Adams, 600 North 3rd Street. Is that all you need? The main reason for wanting to build this is we have a little back door porch, and I have a grill on there. And I want to get it away from the house a little more. It's off, it's right when it's not aesthetically pleasing when you walk up and I got to see my grill there, and everybody comes in our back door instead of our front door. So I just wanted to make that a little more curb appeal, make it nice back there, and have a place to sit and have a cup of coffee in the morning, because in the morning I have the full sun on my front porch and it's unbearable. So I just thought, and we've lived there 47 years. And it seems like, I don't know why I want another project, because that's all we've done is worked on an old house for 47 years. So, but I'd like to add that. I think it'll look good.
Thank you. After 47 years, a place to have a cup of coffee without the sun in your eyes sounds like an excellent idea. Yeah. Before you leave, Ms. Adams, do we have questions of the applicant? Mr. Beaton.
I was just going to ask, how close is the Norfolk Southern property to the back of your
About
property? Up to their property line? Okay, approximately how far is that? Yeah, I'm sure.
It's 150 by 50.
Okay,
So 150, it's like, we have about 30 feet maybe off our driveway, and then that property begins, the
So-
wooded area.
so the back of this deck, have approximately how close is that going to be to your property line?
To a driveway. So
Okay.
then we have a full double driveway. and-
Oh, okay.
It's not
Okay.
Doesn't go.
I just wasn't sure how close their property came to the back of yours. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, Ms. Pierce?
Are you going to paint it or leave it natural?
The panels I want to paint white. Okay, but I'm so sick of paint peeling off of the deck that we have. So I'm going to do a gray stain, I believe, on the wood. And light gray, because the house is now gray with black trim and all this. And I thought that, and all of our other trim is white. So I want to paint the flat panels that we're doing. I've been watching too much TV.
HGTV. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to watch that.
Big Texas Fix and all that. My favorites. We're doing this. That picture came, I took it off the television, but that didn't have the flat sun panels. It just showed a deck on the back of the house. We don't have that fence anymore either. Going up. Is that picture? That picture, I took it, I was watching TV and I went, okay, that's what I want. I want a porch like that. And I kind of like, and underneath, we'll probably do the, close it in with the lattice work because that's what's around the rest of the house. And then I want the panels. So.
Thank you very much. Do we have more questions or?
I don't
Ms.
have a
Pierce?
question. I just have a comment.
Ms. Vogt?
My first property I bought here at 400 North 4th Street. We have a porch like that that's attached to the back of the house that we did 26 years ago. So.
All right.
Two.
Mr. Beaton.
I'm assuming if there was a response from any of the adjacent property owners, we would have that in the packet. Is that?
Better not.
Actually, point of clarification, did we get any responses from adjacent homeowners? And we will open to public comment, absolutely. But in the meantime,
We have received none, Madam Chair.
thank you very much, Ms. Walls. Ms. Rosa?
I just wanted to make a suggestion about staining because I think it's a great idea not to paint your deck. And there's a company called Cabot's. I think you'll find they make gray stain, but they also make a bleaching stain, which will instantly turn your wood to look like 25 years old, gray. So I'd make a suggestion. I know they have it at the local hardware, Ace. Cabot's, it's called.
A plug for ACE and a plug for a product. Very well done. All right, let's go ahead and open up to public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Ladies, gentlemen, discussion amongst ourselves. Further clarification? Cute jokes? No? Okay. I would look for a way to move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the deck.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pierce. We have a motion and a second to take staff's recommendation to approve this project. So if we could have that pesky thing where we vote.
Vice Chair Sheffield,
Yes.
Mr. Beaton,
Yes.
Mr. Hollister.
Yeah.
Ms. Rosa,
Yes.
Ms. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Chair Van Rensburg.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving out of regular business to staff comments. I didn't watch the video. I forgot.
Well, actually, this video was about zoning and ordinances, which you generally don't have to worry about at this board, at least as far as ordinances are concerned. Now, we look at some of the zoning for areas within or that fall within the historic district, but I also wanted to let you know that our zoning code is actually the implementation of our comprehensive plan. And that's where all that comes from. And the reason I tell you that is because we are about to embark on visioning exercises to update our comprehensive plan in the community. There will be a stakeholder, there will be at least one, if not more, stakeholder groups established and many community meetings to get public input about how you want your city to look in 2050 or so. How you want it to look and how you want it to function in the next 30 years. So those will begin probably, I'm going to say after the first of the year, shortly after the first of the year, we're about to enter into a contract to get it started. And I will keep you up to date on that. I did
Thank you.
have- I'm sorry,
Oh.
ma'am.
Thank you very much. Mr. Beaton?
Would it be of value? I watched the planning meeting on TV the other night. Would it be of value for our chair or vice chair to be in attendance at some of these visioning sessions to talk about the historic districts, or at least mention them?
Absolutely.
Or their designee?
Are you saying that they may learn something, Mr. Beaton? Because if so, yes, I'll be there.
Absolutely. It will be based on something that we call a visual preference survey or a charrette, if you've ever heard of that before. It'll be based on a lot of that, and then all that public input would be compiled and considered when we go to draft up the new comprehensive plan. And and they will also be all publicly noticed. Just, you are well aware of the things that you cannot discuss, right? So yes, absolutely. And you will all be invited as well, and anyone else, of course.
Mr. Hollister? If we could all before, oh,
That's an
okay.
extra one.
Yeah, we might want to check in with our city clerk just to make sure that we're not missing anything. And thank you, Ms. Walsh. I have a feeling that, well, I don't have a feeling, all of us have a stake in our community. And I feel like the majority of us would be there with bells on. So
Great.
thank you very much. And
Great.
we meant to watch the video. Truly, we did. We're going to go back.
Mr. Beaton, I don't know if you, Madam Chair, if you were going to bring up the next thing that we had not on the agenda, but it was another staff comment. You had asked at the last meeting to have an overview of the Historic Preservation Cultural Resource Survey update. Sunny will be bringing us over to the website where the documents are. And when you get there, Sunny, if you could pull up the their final report. So it will be, please click on view all. Okay, so you see where it says, yes, survey report 2023. And this goes through a lot of the history that was in the previous one, but there are a few small additions. All of this is, of course, available on the website for all of you. We don't have very many printed copies, so we're not going to offer them to pass out at this time. But if you go down through there, lots of footnotes and citations. These are the historic districts as they exist. And the area in the blue and the area in the green, or I'm sorry, the gray is larger than the existing districts. Those are the portions of the town that the consultants actually walked through to gain an understanding of other places that might exist to possibly add on to our existing districts, possibly add on to them. So if you go down through their other maps, there's lots of methodology, paperwork, and how they did all of that. Again, there's lots of geological history in this document. It's kind of interesting. Those are older maps. There should be close to the end. Well, I'm not sure how far down at the end. I know there's a lot of charts in there and there's a number of pages. It's a big document. And one of the other reasons is that we aren't printing a whole lot of copies is that because it is a very large document. It's also it's too large to email. Okay, that right there, Sunny. Thank you. So in these maps, you can see where they've identified them as a contributing structure versus a non-contributing structure. And they also identified them with their own numbers, identification numbers that don't correspond necessarily to a street address. But all of those numbers correspond to those charts that are below that in the document that we had to just scroll through. What I really wanted to point out in these maps is the possible additions that they have recommended to expand the districts. And those additions are in the gold colored lines on the edges. And I'm going to step over here and point them out. Okay, so Sunny, if you could scroll down to the next map that looks like that one for the South Historic, that one, please. Thank you. Very similar recommendation on the western side along along 9th Street as a possible extension of the historic districts. That is basically the summary of their recommendations to expand those areas, and then also to include some other sites, specific sites as National Register sites and districts versus local districts. Okay, and that's basically all I have. A lot of the other documents are backup to this document. And if you really want to dig through those, you're more than welcome. And you can call me and ask any questions and we'll dig through them together.
Thank
Okay?
you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, board comments. Ms. Pierce, get your hand on the microphone.
Not really, I guess a comment more of the brochure that Patty and I had put together.
Ms. Walsh.
Because I wasn't at the last meeting. I had a football game to attend.
Ms. Walsh and I got together with, oh my gosh, Peter
Willett.
Peter Willett, I would have said Wilmont. And we showed them what you had come up with. And Peter was obviously very excited, and he asked if he could get started on doing, the tweaks, etc. I kind of hoped that it would come to us sooner rather than later, but I also know that he's been quite busy.
Quite busy, and he's been tasked with additional projects, so it's taking longer than anticipated. But I will check with him again after this meeting.
Okay.
And report back at the next meeting.
Wonderful.
Actually, if you could ask him to join us in November, that would be awesome, especially if he has something to show us.
Madam Chair, you're a genius.
Tell Mr. Beaton every once in a while. All right, ladies, gentlemen, anything else that we have today? Otherwise, I believe I would, Mr. Beaton.
Could we just either before we close the meeting or right after count the number of supplemental documents each of us should have to make sure everybody has
And I'm
the
sure
proper number?
Ms. Van Rensburg, I'm sure they'll be in the next packet.
Exactly what I'm imagining. To tell you the truth, I thought about taking them home with me, but then I assumed that it would come to us in one fell swoop. And I decided that a lot of trees died and just. I got 5 and I counted 34 pages, but some of the pages were back and front, and you know what? It might be 6. No, indeed, I have 5. That was part of something that got dropped off to folks in the North Historic District. And I think it is also attached to the back of something else. Yes. Although there are a couple, actually, as it turns out, that have Mr. Taylor's name on them, so. Extra? Okay. All right. Well,
I can help him once we adjourn.
That would be awesome. Thank you very much.
Is there a 5th document? There are 5. Okay. So I have this thing that says St. Mark's Episcopal Church, the former rectory. I have that packet with a staple, and then the roofing estimate. And then the structural analysis and report, this says NV5 on it. And then the Robert Taylor piece of stationery with the pictures attached. What's the other document?
Well, actually, in looking at it, wow, I think at this point, we're about to go down a rabbit hole. Let's, if
Yeah,
we
so
would,
for the-
before we,
For the sake of consistency, all the documents that members of this board should consider at the next meeting when this agenda comes up will be included in your board packet. If you get additional documents from the applicant or anyone else, you need to disclose that in an ex parte communication disclosure. But all the packets, all the board packets will be the same for all board members at the next meeting.
thank you very much for the clarification. And yeah, along those lines, Ms. West, would you suggest that we don't take with us what might be a partial or might have something additional that other board members were not able to see? That we should just basically leave our paperwork here and wait for the information to come to us by way of city staff?
I don't think it does any harm for you to have the extra time to review these materials in advance. Once you get the board packet and if you determine that there's something in there that you have and that is not included in the board packet, then at that time, make that disclosure at the next meeting.
Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate it. All right, ladies, gentlemen, I believe we have our marching orders. I would think at this point, we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. There we go.